Let's see if this works. No, I still need to figure out my, it's featuring the Lols, which is great and all, but I want to see everybody. So I'm going to go back to gallery. All right. All right, so it is November 9th. So we're going to take the less dominant cross-legged position. And then just take a moment to rotate the flesh of your thighs. So if you grab your thighs individually with both hands, you can roll the inner thigh down and the outer thigh up. And this helps you not only spread out between the sitting bones, but find really nice rotation to feel the legs come down a little bit more. So spend some time arranging yourself, your seated base of the seated position, and then just take a moment to align your shoulders with your hips and to help your shoulder blades become support for the chest, to align the skull with the spine, and think about an energy line from your chin to the base of the skull. And then maintaining as much of that as you can, bring your hands together in front of your heart and take your eyes and just close them gently. Point the gaze away from the brain, directing your attention really low in the body where you're connecting with the floor through the props. Just imagining your sitting bones taking root in the floor beneath you. Feeling the heaviness of that three-pronged sitting bone and pelvis connecting with the earth. And as you establish the sensation of the base of the pose, you can begin to signal the central energy channel, the spine, to become lighter and to start to take the upward lifting ascent. Taking some time before any practice just to really check in, take inventory. Notice what is true this morning and try to replace any initial judgment you might have just with a simple curiosity and openness. And see if you can maintain the lift and spread of your chest as you bow toward the heart. And releasing your hands and lifting your head. Let your eyes come open and welcome everyone. So we're starting a forward bending week. And as you know, this monthly cycle of postures is cumulative. So we take what we learn in standing week and we keep kind of working with the lessons there and applying them to deeper, more compact poses. So essentially we take our standing poses and fold them. And the idea I'm bringing to the folding practice this month is one continuous wave of movement. So the idea is we only fold as deeply as we can maintain that wave of movement. And if you've ever done a forward bend, sometimes you feel like you've broken in half. And so the idea is bending without breaking. So we're going to change the crossing of the legs and just get the spine warmed up. And we're going to start with lateral movement and twisting movement, which, as we know from previous practices, can deepen our forward extension. And so we're going to start with the kind of side to side movement here. And we're going to kind of move fluidly, just so we can kind of be a little playful, and sometimes repetition and kind of re-entry is a nice way to just get the body warmed up. We don't have to just sustain a long posture hold. Sometimes when we're starting a practice, this is a kind of a more friendly way to go about it. So you can just start to move laterally with your spine. This is the crescent moon shape. And I like to take the kind of the deeper stretch, or it's not just what I like, but it works better to exhale when you're moving into the stretch and inhale when you're leaving it. So you might start to coordinate the movement with the breathing. Always in yoga, we're trying to abide by the flow of the breath. When we're off of the mat, we tend to make the breath catch up with whatever we're doing. And this is one of the joys of being on our mats, is that we really start to abide by the flow of the breath. Okay, so you guys look great. Let's just do a few more like this. And if you're up high on a perch like I am, you might put a block behind you for the next one, which is the twist, so that you don't have to lean back and angle the spine. You want to keep the spine in a kind of a vertical orientation with space. So this will be the twisting action, inhaling, arms up, and exhaling, one hand behind you, one to your opposite knee. Inhale, center, and continue to each side. So you're really staying in the twist as long as you're exhaling. The inhale, or the urge to inhale, is that signal to leave the twist. And just, always start kind of simply and small and just go from there. So we don't assume anything is true. We kind of let the body talk to us and sense where we are, where we're beginning, and go from there. You can do a few more on your own. And as you move from seated, remember that kind of three-prong foundation into the floor that you have, and really keep that stabilized so that you can move from there and feel anchored. Let's do two more here, one to each side. So we're going to keep working in a twist, but now we're going to bring a little forward extension into it. I should say back extension first. So you're going to inhale the arms back up, and this time you're just going to bring the hand behind you, and the other arm, instead of going to your opposite knee, is not only going up, but slightly back. Good. So you're getting a little bit of an upper back bend there. Good. And then leaving it on the in-breath, you can transition to the other side, lifting the arm, taking it slightly back. Good. So again, you're kind of moving fluidly, grounding that back arm, taking that top arm slightly up and back. The transition might have to be a little bit more than one single breath. You're just going to have to kind of move in a way that feels right to you. So we're not only twisting, but we're getting a little bit of a back bend in here. Just a couple more times. And then lastly, we're going to do, similarly, we're going to do raising that arm, but this time you're going to touch forward in front of your knee. And so you're doing a twist, but you're leaning forward now. The spine is no longer vertical, and you're just gently touching down that way. Coming up, touching down, and revolving the spine. It's a little bit of a maneuver, and we won't do as many, and you might not move with every breath here. Good. Last one. Okay. And now find your way to just sitting normally. Beautiful. So differently today, I wanted to save downward dog for last, because downward dog is a forward extension, but it's an inversion. So all of our forward bends, we're going to do working from the feet up until we get to that downward dog. And then we're going to feel how the flow of the forward bend moves from the hands to the feet in downward dog. So we'll save that for later. I'm going to have you guys find your way up to standing now. You can just come into mountain pose. You're going to join the feet, unless you need a little bit more of a width there, and then you're going to separate the feet up to hip distance. And just kind of set yourself up so you have second toe to heel alignment, shoulders above hips. Still feeling the shoulder blades coiling in towards the chest. And just kind of touching base with standing practice week and what we learned there. We take an upward draw from the floor. So we're not folding forward yet. We're feeling, though, one continuous movement from the feet out through the crown of the head. And what I'm trying to show here is that we maintain that continuity as we fold forward. So the litmus test in the forward bends today is maintaining that continuity, maybe not going as deep if you feel like you're broken in half. We want to feel the length from the feet to the crown as we start to take more of an arc with the body. So just take a few moments as the feet anchor into the floor, you're lifting the inner arches and you're feeling upward energy all the way from the feet through the crown of the head. Now open the eyes and raise the arms. Continuing that continuity through the fingertips. Like you're lifting yourself up with your arms. Making the body somehow lighter by lifting through the arms. And now see if you can just keep a sense of that as you extend forward from the hips. Keep your back either flat or concave, don't round the lower back. And you might not go very far, but just a little test here. Can you still feel the continuity of extension through the fingertips? And at some point, it's going to start to break down. You might feel it hanging in your low back. That's a clue. So inhale your way back up. And exhale, release the arms. Good. So now grab your two blocks for Ardha Uttanasana. And just put them in front of you nice and tall. And again, you can be feet together if you're stable, otherwise hip distance with the feet for more stability, up to hip distance, not wider than that though. And go back to Urdhva Hastasana, upward hand pose from mountain pose, creating the vertical extension that we haven't taken any arc into. And then maintaining that extension from feet through fingertips and crown, start to lengthen forward. Eventually placing your hands on your blocks. And you can always substitute a chair today for any of the forward bends. If the blocks are too far away, if you feel like you've broken that continuity, then you're going to use a chair seat instead. So lift from your feet all the way to your hips, across your back body and down to the crown. And then keeping that, start to take it into the full Uttanasana. And you might decide it's better for you to maintain Ardha, which means half, Uttanasana. It was such a beautiful weekend. You might have ended up working outside a lot and your lower back might be tight this morning. So honor where you are. But just feel that wave of movement from your feet as if you're still in Urdhva Hastasana, as if you're still in mountain pose with the arms raised. And now inhale and look forward. Bend your knees slightly. Use your stomach muscles to support your back. Take your hands onto your hips, come up. And just close the eyes, unfold the arms, and look down toward the cheeks. So one definition of advanced yoga is that we take our poses and make them more compact, but we do not lose any sense of spaciousness. So as we move from these spacious standing poses and fold them, the idea is that we don't limit that sensation, that freedom in our poses. So as yogis, we have to discern where the stopping point is in the forward bends where we can still maintain the spaciousness. You're right on the threshold. So we'll try this, we'll apply this to Parsvottanasana. You can either use blocks to one end of the mat, or you could use your chair seat again. You have to decide what your body is saying to you this morning as far as your needs. So either putting the chair seat on one end of the mat or the blocks. And we're going to begin from standing just so that we can carry that sensation of spaciousness into the forward bend. So you're going to be taking your right foot as the lead, the left foot back. And as you remember from last week, you want to anchor into your back heel like a tap root. You want to extend the right toes forward. And then you want to draw up. Draw up, draw up, draw up. Do you remember in the 80s, everybody wore stirrup pants? They had the little, well, men probably didn't because they're not tortured with these fashion trends as much, but there was the elastic in the arches of your feet. So imagine you have those stirrup pants on and the elastic is lifting the arches of your feet. So you're compacting your hips, you're squaring the hips, the legs are firm, and you're going to extend the arms. Draw up from the arches of the feet through the fingertips. Feel how this vertical ascent of energy, and maintain it as you start to lengthen forward. And you're coming into the half position first, so your hands find their way to the chair seat or the blocks. Lift up from the feet, and now you're arcing the whole body. So that movement pattern is now flowing in more of a wave, less of a line, but find that wave. And if you can maintain that sense of a continuous wave, you're going to go into the full forward bend. Otherwise, stay in the half position and just be there. Remember to align your trunk with your forward leg. Your blocks or chair are evenly spaced around the right foot. And remember from last week, you have to equalize the feet, shifting your weight to the right big toe, left small toe. Okay, so usually we lose the we lose the continuity in the mid body, in the midsection. So every in-breath, lifting the legs up, letting that flow along the lower back, along the back body, all the way to the crown of the head. Anchor into your back heel, extend your right toes, sucking up from the inner arches of the feet. Beautiful. Look forward on the in-breath if you went into the full fold. And just bend your right knee, step forward with your left foot. Bend your knees, take your hips, engage your stomach muscles, come up. And right where you are, just step into mountain pose. Remember the letter V shape of the feet, the engagement of the heels, ball mounds, and all 10 toes. That's what's grounding you down, but then lift up from the inner arches and let that lifting flow all the way up the body. And then as you're ready, you can open your eyes and you'll set up left side, so stepping back with the right foot. You can face the same end of the mat. We're not going to worry about jumping out today. So take some time with your stance. Make sure you're tilting the pelvis back so that your trunk is vertical. Your whole back leg is straight. Don't let it bend. And anchor into your right heel. Raise the arms, inviting that upward energy from the ground up, all the way through the fingertips and crown. And at the top of an in-breath, maintain that length and lengthen forward. forward extension, meaning we keep the vertical length as we make ourselves more compact. Stop at the Ardha position, the half position. Concave lumbar, steering the trunk to the left, balancing the feet, extending left toes forward, and finding a way to create lift in the legs. When they might feel like they're being jammed into the floor, how do you create lift in your legs? Take the femur head and massage it into the hip ball and socket joint. And then carry the length forward, bow deeply toward the leg if that's in the cards for you today. Otherwise, keeping the half position. Good. Now come back to the half position if you went all the way into the full Parsvottanasana. Bend the left knee and step that right foot forward. Engage your stomach muscles and help yourself stand up. Good. Okay, we are going to repeat that, but we're going to add something to it. So just taking mountain pose for a moment. Find all those little rooting points of your feet. Let those sink into the floor and then create the lift. We only rise if we root. So you root the feet out first, then you rise out of those roots and carry the length up, 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 up through the crown of the head. All right. So back to right-sided Parsvottanasana. You can just step your right foot forward again, left foot back. We won't be as specific as we come into the pose now. You'll just raise the arms, come to the top of the in-breath, extend forward into the half position. And before we take this farther, can you feel how you push the right foot forward, which kind of jams up the right toes? That's a tendency or a habit in the body. So I want you to clamp the feet together. In other words, drag your right heel toward your left foot, drag your left toes towards your right foot. You're clamping the legs. This gives your legs an upward movement. Otherwise, we have a jamming into the floor movement. So it's an articulation that helps us keep upward movement in the body. Okay, so keeping that, you're going to keep your left hand down, take your right hand to your right hip. We're coming into revolved triangle to give our spine more mobility, to give us deeper forward extension. So try to maintain the clamping of your feet. As you take the left shoulder blade toward the chest and roll the right shoulder back. And keep your crown of your head representative of the line of the spine. In other words, don't drop the crown. Try to suck the outer right hip bone to midline. And just pinning that left shoulder blade in a little bit more to the chest. Good. And now revolving back to facing the chair or the blocks. Take a glance forward, extend, extend, extend. Make sure you're clamping the feet so you're giving upward movement to the legs. And then take that length and let it cascade forward. Come into a deeper version of Parsvottanasana. One day your chin is on your shin. So we keep gathering length. Reminds me of when you're trying to stretch the bungee cord just a little bit farther to connect. You have to lift and lengthen. Lift from the floor, lengthen the trunk. Clamp the feet. Good. And now look forward, bend the right knee, step in with the left foot. Use your stomach muscles and come up. Wonderful. Do anything you need to do as we keep kind of working on this Parsvottanasana. We have our last one here. So maybe you need to wake up your feet or give them a little bit of a massage. We did a lot of footwork last week. We know how important it is to keep the feet happy and spacious. And then you'll set up left side. Okay, so the pelvic tilt, back heel down, extend the left toes out, raise the arms, extend forward. And place blocks or chair evenly around left foot. And this is where we're going to check in with the clamping. So before you clamp the feet, notice how we push into the left foot, we push back with the right foot. And this gives our legs a heavy, dense, kind of downward, not good thing feeling. Now, clamping the feet, pulling the ball mounds of the left toes towards the heel, pulling the right toes forward. And then we feel the upward lift of the legs. So it is effort to maintain that, but just keeping some awareness there. Start to move the left hand to the left hip. And revolve the torso to face the left as you draw the left hip bone to midline. As you pin the right shoulder blade in toward the chest and roll the left shoulder back, extend through the crown. And then lengthening out of it, recenter yourself with the left leg, clamping the feet, and see if you can cascade the torso toward the left leg, maybe a bit more deeply this time. Finish up your exhalation. Inhale, start to come out, bend the left knee, step in with the right foot, help yourself up. And you can turn to face the front, the broad side of the mat, I should say, and come back to mountain pose. Pointing the gaze down as you use the in-breath to imagine the buoyancy, the ascent of the central channel that really is fed from our connection with the floor. Drop the shoulders, they're not part of that ascent. Lift through the crown. Okay, so last standing pose is Prasarita Padottanasana. And similarly, we're going to bring a twist into it to deepen the extension. So same recommendation, if the blocks are too far away today, you'll work with a chair seat. However, our feet will be wider, therefore you'll be closer to the floor, so you might need blocks in the event that you just used a chair seat. You might be able to use blocks at this point, so you have a little bit of a closeness to the floor. So you decide, but set up your wide stance. And we'll begin standing up first. So make sure your big toes are on the same line. Remembering from last week, we have to equalize the feet. There's this pressure out. We tend to see our pinky toes roll out. So try to broaden your toe bases, try to even out the heels, the ball mounds. Be in integrity here with the feet. They do get scrunched up underneath you, so it requires more effort. Raise the arms. Invite lift to the entire body. Lift. Keep that lift, maintain that lift as you hinge at the hips and lengthen forward, touching the chair seat or the blocks. Lift your inner arches. Good. Establish that good connection with your feet. Pada Bandha. Wonderful. And now just we'll get a baseline here. Just take a moment to bow deeply. You might drop blocks lower or move hands to the floor. Feel the wave from the feet all the way to the crown of the head. And now come to a concave lumbar or flat back position and place your left block right below the line of the sternum with your left hand on it. And that could be the chair, of course. And we'll take our right hand to our right hip. Lifting your legs. On an exhale, start to revolve the chest to face to the right. Roll the right shoulder back. Try to pin the left shoulder blade in toward the chest. Extend through the crown. You might move the right hand to the left hip to keep assisting the right shoulder to move away from the floor. Finish up at exhalation, start to turn, and you can use the second block or the same block, but you're going to put your right hand down now, right underneath the line of the sternum. Take your left hand to your left hip, lift the legs away from the floor as you plant the feet. Revolving the chest to the left, pinning the right shoulder blade in toward the chest. Keep inviting the top shoulder to rotate away from the floor, maybe taking the left hand to the right side waist to encourage that action. And then at the end of the exhalation, you'll start to leave the turn of the spine, the rotation. You'll take a moment in the half wide standing fold, and then you'll see if you can carry that wave of extension into a deep forward bend, pointing the crown toward the floor. So we lift the legs up and we extend the crown toward the floor. When we do these forward bends with integrity, we're not yanking and tugging on the lower back. That's a sign that we've broken the continuity of the pose. And now on an in-breath, you'll start to leave Prasarita Padottanasana. And you're going to start to help your feet come closer together. And find your way up one last time. And just be in mountain pose for a half of a minute. And as we practice and as we return to mountain pose, it becomes more second nature in the body, more automatic. Complementing the movement up in the body. It's called Pranavayu, with the gaze away from the brain, the roots out of the feet, the shoulders dropping away from the earlobes. Good. So now standing is usually the most basic way to learn poses, and they do get more challenging as we sit. So we're going to sit and we're going to kind of take these lessons into our seated forward bends. So have your two blankets, have a strap. Sit on one blanket. And once you have your seated blanket, come into Dandasana. Extend your legs out in front of you. And just place your hands next to your hips. And just sense what the legs do before we're so programmed to come into the wise action, sometimes we forget what the body does habitually. So what I want you to notice is passively, kind of everything moves out through the heels. We're losing energy that way. So as you put your hands next to your hips, see if you can kind of drag the heels towards the hips. There we're creating that wave again, instead of everything moving in the wrong direction. So just kind of scrub the heels towards the hips, feeling that line of energy, which you feel more strongly when you're standing. So this is why it's a little more complicated to learn these poses seated. So we kind of get that now. Okay, so let go of that. And now Janu Shirshasana. So take your 8 fingers to the inner right knee, pulling that ligament, that cord back, which helps you soften and create more space for the calf muscle to come into the thigh. And then try to bring the right heel toward the right inner thigh. You might not come all the way, but that's the general direction. And then you're going to prop the right knee if there's any floating knees. And so the kind of the habit I want you to notice first is how that left heel juts forward, the right knee pulls back. So similarly to when we were standing, we're clamping. So I want you to kind of clamp your right knee toward the left foot and drag that right heel, sorry, I meant to say left heel, toward the hip, okay? So then you're getting more of the upward movement on the legs. So then grab your strap. And because we're reinforcing femur head into hip joint, place your strap near the heel on the arch of the foot, which reinforces that connection. So where the arch meets the heel is great. And wrap your strap so you don't have to waste energy squeezing the strap. And now pulling back on your strap, reinforce the direction of energy from the left heel to the left hip socket. Try to steer that right knee more forward rather than away, and try to turn your chest to face right. Sorry, left, I keep saying that. To face that left leg. So sternum faces the left leg. Okay, so once you feel like you're gathering or drawing the energy of the leg, you're gonna cascade the torso forward. But if you feel like that energy breaks, that's a clue that you've gone beyond your edge, you've gone beyond integrity. And you might find a nice position and you might close in on the foot. If you can maintain the actions and bring your grip closer to the foot or even on the foot, then you'll do that. And you'll take your kind of deep bow. But remember, it all starts in the draw from the arches of the feet toward the hips. So if you lose that, we don't have much going on that's in integrity above. Good. And just help yourself inhale up and out of it. Safest way to transition from here for the knee is stand the right knee up, the right foot down, and then extend the leg. So we'll do Janu Shirshasana with the left leg moving into the bent knee position. So 8 fingers to the inner knee, moving that kind of cord towards the inner knee, helping the heel close in on the inner thigh. And then of course, propping the knee if you see a floating knee. You want to feel really anchored there. And then notice how we push into the right heel, which causes the trunk to turn, which causes the knee to fly back. So clamping your knee toward your right heel, rotating the trunk towards the right leg, moving the energy of the right leg from heel to hip. And grabbing that perfect spot on your foot. And start really far from the foot, so elbows are right under shoulders, so you know you're gonna not prematurely round your back. Be way more concerned with the clamping action of your legs than with how deep your forward bend goes. So start to lengthen forward. If you can maintain, you'll come closer to the foot. Keep encouraging the draw from the inner arch all the way to the hip, and then it cascades towards the torso and eventually to the crown. One wave. Janu Shirshasana, head to knee pose. And then inhale, lengthen out of it. Stand your left knee up, left foot down, and extend the leg. Refresh your legs if you need to, bounce them, you can slap them, you can rolling pin them, whatever feels refreshing to your legs. You want to keep a sense of vitality and energy in the legs. So Marichyasana is next. You can always make that adjustment that we did at the start of class to rotate your thighs if you're feeling like your sitting bones are closing in. That's a smaller three-pronged connection with the floor, so you want to make sure it's always broad and stable. So you're going to kind of scoop behind the right knee, drag the heel in, and we're going to start with a twisting version of Marichyasana before we forward bend, just to kind of get more access to a deep forward bend. So left hand next to left hip, raise the right arm. And on your exhale, you're going to drop the right arm inside the right knee, pinning both together. So squeeze the knee against the arm. And then take your left hand now centered behind you. And again, you might need a little support or elevation there so that you don't have to lean back. And see if you can clamp the legs. Left heel toward left hip. Now, as you leave the twist, you might see if you can just reach forward and grab the inner left foot. For some of you, that's an option. In that case, you'll take the left hand to the outer left foot. Otherwise, you're going to connect again with the strap coming into the arch and heel. And keep pinning your right knee against your right arm. And then maybe notice first how we push into the extended leg rather than pull. So pull, draw the heel toward the hip. Notice how that brings your chest out of the shadows a little bit. Inhale and carry that length from the heel to the hip, across the back and out through the crown. Keep pulling the left heel toward the left hip. Inhale, lift the head. Release the pose. You can extend the right leg. You can bounce, slap, rolling pin. Refresh your legs. And then scooping under the left knee and taking the heel near the sitting bone. And just observe that your lower back is upright. You didn't round it out or lean back. Right hand next to right hip, raise the left arm. And then drop the arm inside the knee and pin the two together. Form a relationship there. You're going to slide the right hand so it's centered up behind you, propped maybe. Start to turn to the right. And as you do so, invite the right heel toward the hip socket. And now releasing the twist, you're going to extend that left arm, see about grabbing the foot directly. You might already know you need that strap. If you can grab directly, you'll take that right hand to the outer foot. And whether or not you're holding the strap or the foot, same action. You're pulling the foot toward the hip. You're bringing extension into the upper body that way. You're bringing a line of energy, a wave of energy from the foot all the way to the crown. Carry that into a deeper forward bend, and it might mean you move a millimeter. So don't let your egos or your idea about what should be interfere with what is. Take your last exhalation, inhale to gracefully, with integrity, with length, leave the pose, come all the way up, extend the legs, shake the legs, bounce the legs, whatever you need to do. So we're going to finish with what's considered the deepest forward bend, deepest seated forward bend, Paschimottanasana. If you have a nice way to ground your forehead, that's great. It's not necessary, it's just more quieting. You could put a chair seat right over your legs and just kind of prop the forehead. You could build up height over your legs, a bolster, a block, a blanket. We're going to do a little bit over a minute of a hold. So you want to just make sure it's a sustainable pose. You're not going to be waiting it out, checking your watch and thinking about how you need a pedicure. Those are signs that we're not in a good pose for ourselves. So just take a little bit of a moment to set up. And before you come into the forward bend, I just want you to connect with Dandasana. So sitting upright, dragging the heels towards the hips rather than pushing the heels away. And then carry that length. Remember the bungee cord, you're stretching, you're taking that slack up the body, up the body, up the body, lengthen forward, and then create a little landing pad for your head somehow. If you're keeping the integrity, you're not going to feel a yanking on the low back. So engage the legs and make sure you're not in too deep. You're not breaking. We're bending, not breaking this week. Every time you breathe in, just kind of see that wave of energy from the heels all the way traveling out through the crown. Feel the crown magnetizing toward the feet. The heels magnetizing toward the hips. Every in-breath, extension in the trunk. Good. Using an in-breath to come up and come up just like you did from standing Uttanasana. Engage your stomach muscles. Use an in-breath. Support yourself coming out of it. You can kind of deconstruct whatever the setup was. And remember, I said I was saving downward dog for last because downward dog is by definition a inversion. So we take what we just learned, we're going to flip it on its head. So instead of drawing up from the feet, downward dog draws up through the hands. So we pretend the hands are the feet. And if you don't have that line of energy moving from your hands all the way to the shoulders and then the hips, we hate the pose. We suffer. We want it to end. We check the watch. So this can be done. I want to say this to anybody that suffers in this pose because of joint issues. You're going to do it differently than the rest of us. You're going to do it either with a wall as your support for your hands or a chair seat. Otherwise, you're going to be doing it from the table position. The idea is that you get the sensation in your body. So if you don't, if you do it from the floor and you're just thinking about how much you want it to end, you're not going to get really the teaching. So either the wall then, or the chair seat, or the table position. So take just a moment to set yourself up to prepare to come into the pose. If you're using a chair or the wall, you're going to be in a vertical stance from the hips to the heel, from the heels to the hips. And you can extend the torso horizontally for the wall or angle it down if you're using a chair. So from table pose, curl your toes under, exhale, extend the legs, keep the knees bent because the final expression now is in the legs, not the upper body. The legs we're going to pretend are the upper body. So extend out of the roots of the fingertips, the finger pads. Pada Bandha is now Hasta Bandha, meaning hand lock with the earth.
Little suction cup straws in the inner hands where the inner arches of the feet would be. Lengthen the long arm bones into the shoulders. Extend the hips away from the shoulders. And then there's that crux of the wave. Let the legs only extend because you've gathered the extension from the earth through the hands up to the hips. So let the cascade of the wave fall down the legs. You can see why we get in trouble when we start with planting the heels first. So lengthen up from the hands to the hips. And then as you need to, you're going to find your way into child's pose. Another forward bend. I'm just spending a few quiet moments there. Okay, beautiful. Last but not least, we're going to finish with a bridge pose. So you can come onto your back. And we're going to play with one more inversion by elevating one leg. I should say you have the option to elevate one leg in this pose. So just begin by walking your heels in toward your sitting bones and aligning your toes in front of the heels. And then take a moment to lift the hips and draw the flesh of the buttocks away from the shoulder girdle, elongating the lumbar and tilting the pelvis back. So you're closing this, you're sealing the gap between your low back and the floor. You can either press your hands down and have fully extended arms as your base, or you can connect your hands, bind your hands and roll the shoulders kind of down to the floor and lift the shoulder blades in. So it's really up to you, but you're going to lift your hips away from the floor. Take a moment with your feet down just to feel how you can press into the floor to create the lifting action of the tailbone into the soft tissue of the body. And then stepping more fully into your left foot, you might see about raising your right leg up and lifting that leg up, 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 up. So we're inverting the energy now. And now see about the other side. And if you're doing both feet down, you're just going to lift your hips up, 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 up as you press the hands and feet down. Maybe lifting the left leg by pressing into the right foot. And just feeling that wave in the other direction. And then you're going to start to come down. Walk your spine down like it's your favorite necklace, bead by bead. Roll your shoulders out from under you. And then widen your feet to the edges of your mat. And rest your hands on your belly. So we're going to be rocking to the inner and outer feet to create a little twisting action. So as you drop your knees to the right, roll your head left. This is exhale. Inhale, knees center, head center. Keep moving the knees all the way to the left and roll your head right. Inhale to recenter and exhale to the sides. And when you feel like your spine is ready, you can recenter the knees and start to set up for Shavasana. And if you need to get up to grab things, make sure you roll to your side first. It's friendlier on the body rather than popping up from reclining. Transition to your side to come up. And make sure you have a setup that is very comfortable and supported. Make sure you're warm enough. You can dim any lights that are maybe shining down over your head. And take a moment to arrange your body in a spacious way now that vertical length of your body placed horizontally, but still keeping length flowing through the body. And the flesh of the buttocks hopefully is extended away from the back, upper buttock towards lower buttock. Heels are drawn away from the hips, the feet are wide. The arms unfolded so that the inner arms don't touch the sides of the trunk. Palms are up. Back of the neck is long, and maybe the head is supported to help you keep the back of the neck long. The gaze is pointed away from the brain. And then we excuse all remaining effort from the body. All effort is contraction, so feeling the body become more expansive. And this might not occur all at once. You might notice how the body very incrementally releases closed fists throughout. We feel the anchor points, the heavy points to the body meeting the floor. Softening the organic body. Yoga means union. It can create a sense of wholeness within us. And we just really reinforce that teaching in a physical level. How effective it can be when we work in a unified way. Try to get out of the way of your breath, just observing, maybe treating your breath like you're observing gently lapping waves on the ocean. Maybe flowing a few deeper breaths that start at the feet and make a U-turn at the crown of the head. Let your fingers and toes begin to gently move. Begin to bend your knees and elbows. Help yourself come to either side of your body. And from side lying position, help yourself come to seated. And then once you're seated, join the hands together in front of your heart, extending your fingertips slightly away out into the world. Pull the shoulders back, still looking away from the brain. Gently lift the corners of the mouth. Let's take a deep breath in together through the nose and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. Right. I hope everybody enjoys this awesome weather before it gets cold again. And I'll see you in the next few days, maybe Wednesday, maybe Friday. Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.